Alicia Beekman. I am a talent agent at DDO Artist Agency. We are a full service talent agency. That means TV, film, commercial, print, voiceovers, stage, basically anything you can think of. And we are in LA, New York, Chicago, and the Southeast Atlanta market. Out of curiosity, I know about half of you are from Australia. Can you put in the chat where else you're from? I'm just kind of curious of where we're all, or you can say it if you just want to unmute and say it. Or nothing. Okay, there we go. Singapore. Okay,
I'm
cool.
Jessie, and I'm from
Say it again, Jesse.
Jessie from Pensacola, Florida.
From Florida. Okay, awesome. And Singapore. Okay, great. Awesome. So that was a little bit about obviously DDO, but I specifically work in the LA office. I work in TV, film, and voiceover. Those are my areas of expertise. And I specialize in youth and young adults. So my kind of forte is young and emerging actors as they're first starting out and getting them through their first, first bookings, first TV shows, first big things. And I love it. That being said, I have worked in all areas of the industry. I have worked with adults. I have specialized in all those different areas that I named. One thing I will preface before all of this is that my expertise is the LA market. So some things work differently in other markets, even in the States, and then obviously internationally, it can be a bit different as well. So everything that I am experienced in is here in the LA market. So I do have kind of a plan, but does anybody have any questions to start us off? I think what I'm going to do is the topic I kind of want to focus on is a big overarching topic of kind of like how the entire casting process works and where we fit into it, where casting fits into it, where you as an actor fit into it, all the way from the point of development of a show or film to shooting it. And then I do really like questions because I feel like I don't know what you already know versus what you don't. So if you have any questions to start us off, go for it. If you have any questions as I'm going through the process, just give me a hand raise on here. And then after I finish that, I would love to do like a good amount of time on questions. So if you want to think about some different things, no question is dumb, no question's too small, no question's too big, etc. Okay, does that all sound good? Does anybody think it doesn't sound good? Okay, this is always funny because I feel like I'm just talking to myself for an hour and a half, so please just participate. But that is why I like to see you too, because then I feel less like I'm talking to myself. Okay, cool. I'm assuming for the most part here, people are at early stages of their career, right? You're just starting in the acting world, more or less. Okay, I got some nods. Cool. So I'm going to try to be as specific as possible. If I use a word that you don't know what it means, I'm going to try to explain all of the industry words that I do use. But if you don't, just chat and say, what does this word mean? Sometimes I forget that words I use every day are not like normal people words. They're just acting words. Got it, Jeremy. Okay, cool. So from the very beginning of all of this, obviously there is development. So a show or a movie is sold to a production company and then to a network. Once that show is picked up, so that can either be, if it's a TV show, they might pick up a pilot of the show. Pilot is just one episode, first introductory episode. If a network picks up just a pilot, that is all they are agreeing to see. So basically, they are saying, we will watch one full episode of this, and then us as a network, we will decide whether or not to pick it up. But even just to do that pilot, they have to go through the whole big process that we're about to go through. A show might be picked up straight to series, meaning, okay, yes, we're picking this up for 8 episodes, 12 episodes. That usually happens when there's big names already attached, whether that is a big name director or producer or they have a big name actor. If there's a celebrity actor involved, they might trust it that it can already have a following and pick it up straight to series. Film either can be produced through a network or studio, or it can be produced independently and then go through the film festival circuit in hopes that one of the studios will buy it in order to distribute it. I will say right now, the development piece of it, not my expertise. So we're going to kind of just float over that part. Two, we're going to use a show as an example. So someone sells a show to Netflix, let's say. We can say that it is just a pilot. Let's say they've sold a pilot. The network, then either they have their casting team, but the show hires an independent casting director to cast it. So me as an agent, my relationships are with the casting director. My job is to represent a roster of talent, so all of my actors, and then to already have that relationship with the casting directors. So there's a new show. They hire a casting director to cast it. I'm just gonna pick one for the sake of this. Let's say they hire Ofiero Horn, Danielle Ofiero and Amber Horn, really big kids casting directors here in LA. They do a lot of like Nickelodeon and Disney and that kind of stuff. So let's say they hire Danielle and Amber. It is the show and the network and the casting directors, Danielle and Amber, all sit down together, and the casting directors have to learn this project front and back. They have to really learn and understand all of the characters that they're looking for. So together they create what's called a breakdown. A breakdown is usually through one of the casting websites. It's what they send out that has all of the information that we know about the project and a breakdown, that's why it's called that, of all of the characters that they're looking to cast. I will add in as well that this process is actually very similar even for commercials. Obviously, it's a little different scale, but same thing. They've hired a casting director, they've sat down, they really work out all the different roles that they're going to cast for that commercial, and then they put down a breakdown. So in a breakdown, I am pulling one up so that I can look as I'm saying it to you. They basically list all of the information that they can share with us. So the name of the show, if there's a name already, what kind of project it is. So I happen to be on, there's a spinoff of the show Suits that's coming out. So that's what I happen to have here. It's called Suits LA. So this says 1 hour episodic. It's for NBC. It is SAG-AFTRA, meaning it's a union project. SAG-AFTRA is the actors union here in the States. It has a list of the executive producers. It has who the director is, who the writer of this episode is, who the casting director is, who the casting associate is, where it's going to shoot, which is LA, and when it's going to shoot, November 8th through 22nd. There's usually some information in there talking about how they're equal opportunity casting. There's no discriminating. Please submit everybody. And then sometimes there is a description. This particular one I'm looking at doesn't have one, but let's say it's like a new feature film or something. They may have like a paragraph description about what it's about. And then it has a list of all of the characters they are looking to cast. So let's talk about this a little bit. Casting and the show will sit down together and they will write this. It sometimes is super vague, like especially when it's a smaller role, right? It might be like person shopping, like that could be the name of the role. And it might say 20s to 40s, any gender person shopping. Okay, super vague. Or it might be super specific, even if it's a small role. It might be someone that is a specific ethnicity, speaks a specific language, has a very specific skill. With kids, the age hopefully is a little more specific, at least with kids. Might say want that maybe the character is 10, but they want somebody that's legally 11 at least for labor laws. So it can be really specific and it can be really vague. It just depends on what they're looking for. The really important bit of information that comes out in a breakdown is the size of the role. So, for commercials, you either are a principal in a commercial or your background. Most agencies, at least big name talent agencies, are only submitting on roles that are principal. It doesn't matter for commercials how big the role is outside of that. You could walk by, or you could be the host of the commercial that says all the things. If it's a SAG commercial, you're a principal as long as you're being paid a principal rate, which basically means that you are identifiable. In a commercial, they just need to be able to identify you. So if it's a huge crowd of people that are all in the back and you could never make out a face, that would be background. But if there's a person at the cash register that's swiping, whether they talk or not, that would be an identifiable person in a commercial that gets paid a principal rate. So commercials, principal, or background. For film, there is a lead, there is supporting, and there is background. And that's pretty much it. Sometimes they will use terms like supporting lead, but those are really the only terms that there are for film. And that is really important in casting, because if it's a lead, you need to be able to, carry the whole film. And supporting can be anything from maybe you have a good amount of scenes, but you're not a lead. Maybe you just have one line. All of that is considered supporting. And these terms are the terms that go on a resume. So that's one of the reasons why I'm explaining them carefully now. When you have a resume, when you're making a resume, and we can talk about resumes later if you have questions on that, and you put what the project is, your next one says either, if it's a film, it says either lead or supporting. Background work never goes on a resume. Lead or supporting. Okay. TV. There's more categories for TV. So for TV, you have a co-star, which is the smallest size role, a guest star, or a series regular. It can be a co-star, can be recurring, so that means it's in more than one episode. Then it would be called a recurring co-star or a recurring guest star. I am going to use, let's use Grey's Anatomy as an example. Hopefully people vaguely know Grey's Anatomy, at least like the format of the show. The series regular cast are the people that are in basically every episode or every episode. They're the people in the opening credits. They're the people that you know and you follow their story throughout. The guest star is going to be the main one-off person in that episode. So if the episode is about a couple that gets in a car crash and then they go to the hospital and the whole episode is around them and their recovery and their treatment, they're probably going to be the guest stars of that episode. It means they are super essential to the story. A co-star usually does still speak, though there is such thing as a non-speaking co-star, but that could be, let's say, while those people are in the hospital and their family is there with them, maybe one of the attending doctors comes in to tell them something about their treatment, like don't forget to take this medication, and leaves. That would be a co-star. It's usually just a few lines at most. Basically, their interactions are not essential to the plot of the story, and that's what makes it a co-star. When you get to series regular, so all of these other ones, co-star, guest star, even if they're recurring, you could be a recurring guest star in 10 episodes. But what makes you a series regular is that you're under a big contract. So a guest star, if they are booking a new guest star, let's say they're starting season whatever of Grey's Anatomy, I think it's like 25. It's a lot of seasons of Grey's Anatomy. The new season might come out and they might release a breakdown that says major recurring guest star, like will recur throughout the season. That means that their hope is to book somebody that is going to continue throughout the season, but you are not tied to them under any overarching contract. So if you shoot a couple episodes for them and then you go and book a big feature film and you're no longer available to them, that's okay. They need to figure that out. What a contract does for a series regular is it holds you to the show. So when you are under a series regular contract, you cannot be a series regular on any other shows. Your priority always has to go to the show you're on. You basically are expected to be available to them all the time. Usually in a series regular deal, you are paid for every single episode, whatever your episodic rate is, whether you're in the episode or not. So that is kind of what keeps them from putting everybody under contract and saying none of you can do anything else, right? It means that they have to pay you for every single episode. There is such thing as what's called a fractional series regular, which means you're guaranteed a certain number of episodes. So a common number is 10/13. This is a weird industry, okay? So in a breakdown, it might literally say fractional series regular 10/13. That means that you are guaranteed to be in 10 out of 13 episodes, or the fractional equivalent to that. So the math of 10/13 divided by however many episodes they're doing. So if you're hired as a fractional series regular and there are 13 episodes, let's say that, you still have that episodic rate. You are guaranteed to be in at least 10 of them and paid for at least 10 of them. You are not guaranteed to be paid for all episodes produced, though if you are in more than 10, you are paid for whatever episodes you're in. Okay, does that all make sense so far? Cool. This is kind of like deep cut information, but it's all important. Now, those words as well, that co-star, guest star, or recurring co-star, recurring guest star, series regular, that again is what goes on your resume. That is the word. It's either co-star or guest star or series regular. Okay, so they have a breakdown. It's a new season. Maybe they have a new series regular they're going to be casting for. They have a couple guest stars in the episode and a few co-stars. That will often come out all in one breakdown. And casting directors are the ones to send those out. They send out those breakdowns to agents and sometimes managers. They often put them on the site. On our end, it's called Breakdown Services. On an actor's end, it's called Actors Access. So we will literally get an email that says there's a new breakdown for Grey's Anatomy or for whatever this new show is. And then we go into it. Okay. I'm going to use this Suits breakdown as an example so that I can kind of talk through it. So this one, this is a role that says can play the role of girl, 12 to 14, any ethnicity, wants to be a screenwriter. It says co-star. So we know it's a co-star. I can click on this role, Tina. Oh, just logged me out. Give me one moment. I can click on this role. It brings me to a search page. I can click autofill. It's going to fill in the basic parameters of the role. So I have here that this is looking for a woman, or transgender woman is also checked off here. Between the ages of 12 to 14, every ethnicity is checked off because they're open to any ethnicity. And then I can press search. Every single actor that I represent that fits those basic parameters will pop up. So I now am looking at a list of all of the girls that I represent that are 12 to 14, any ethnicity, that could potentially be a fit for that role. From there, depending on what the role says, I decide who I want to submit. So for this one, this is a co-star. I actually can also, on that last page before clicking search, I can go to a folder that I have my actors in that says that they will do co-star roles. As you go about your career, you are at different levels. So when you start off, the traditional trajectory of your path as a TV or film actor is that you start with smaller roles, right? Doesn't always go that way. I have people who their first booking ever has been a series regular, but the traditional path is that you start off by booking smaller roles. So that would include co-stars. After you book a couple of co-stars, you don't want to keep doing co-stars forever. And this is the conversation once you're at that point in your career, that you talk to your agent about, you get on the same page. Okay, I think I'm beyond the point of co-stars. I want to be doing bigger things. And at that point, we stop submitting you on co-stars. Or let's say you do a couple co-stars and then you book a guest star or you book a recurring guest star. We don't want you doing co-stars anymore. No reason to go back and have a one-liner in a TV show after you have proven yourself as an actor. So I have my people in folders based on who is willing to, is willing to slash should be doing co-stars. And then it kind of goes the same way, the opposite way. When you're first starting out, you very possibly, most likely, are not ready for a series regular role or a lead in a film. That is kind of a whole nother level of actor, right? You have to be able to fully create this character, carry an entire show, carry an entire film. Don't get me wrong, some actors jump in and they're ready for it. Others, as they're starting training and such, are not. So I have a folder of my people that are ready for series regulars or even ready for guest stars. So I can separate it by that. And then all of my actors that fit those basic categories will pop up. I see their profiles on your Actors Access profile or whatever casting site it is. You have headshots. You have, hopefully you have media. So either a reel if you've worked before or a couple of self-tape scenes to show what you can do. So you have some options on there. You have a resume on there. You have your skills on there. So let's say this role also in there said, maybe this is a karate kid and they have to be an expert in karate. I can actually go and click expert karate, search, and the people that have that will pop up. So then from there, I decide who to submit. When I submit, I can pick which headshot I want to use. Obviously, if I'm submitting on a role in Grey's Anatomy where somebody is getting in a car accident, I'm going to be picking a very different headshot than if it's a Disney Channel show or even a sitcom or whatever, an adult sitcom. These are going to be very different. A horror film is going to be very different than an indie coming of age film. So I pick the headshot based on that. I pick which media I want to use. So if you have a comedic tape up on your site and a dramatic tape, I will submit accordingly based on what makes sense for this. I select anybody that I want to submit. That could be one person, it could be 30 people. It just depends how broad the role is. But it is my job to submit anybody for that role that is right for it and can handle it, that I represent. So I select everybody, let's say it's 10 people, and then I press submit. Casting then gets the submissions from all of the agents and managers that they've sent it to. Usually they send the breakdown to everybody, but they may not see people from every agency. Obviously, casting, like we have relationships and casting trusts certain reps more than others. So they usually start with their stronger agents on their list and then kind of go down from there. You also, by the way, as an actor with a profile on Actors Access, you also have access to some breakdowns. Usually they're smaller projects. It's things like short films or student films, things like that. You're usually not seeing those big breakdowns, like you wouldn't see the Grey's Anatomy breakdown. However, sometimes you will. Maybe they're looking for something really specific. Maybe Grey's Anatomy is looking for somebody that speaks a specific dialect of a language, and they may choose to open that breakdown up to actors as well so that they can reach as many people as they can to try to find that, or an actor with a certain disability that they want to portray authentically. They may open that up bigger. Okay, so casting gets all these submissions. There can be like between, I would say, 500 to 5,000 submissions per role that casting is getting from the different reps. It's a lot of people. They're not going to audition 5,000 people for the role. I also, another thing that I should add is when I click and pick all of those pictures and all of that, I also can put in a specific note. So I can say what your recent, just did an episode of, we're just going to stick to Grey's Anatomy because I can only think of one thing at a time. Just did an episode of Grey's Anatomy, or black belt in karate, if that's what they're looking for, or whatever it is. Or if you don't have anything specific, like it might be, I just signed them because I saw them in a show and they blew me away. Like, you have to see them. It could be anything, right? It's my job to sell you. Sounds bad, but it is. So casting gets all of those and they decide who they want to schedule for an audition. Normally at this point in 2024, that is going to be for a self-tape. There are some commercials here in LA are about 50% in person, the auditions. Different markets are different though. And then TV film is almost entirely self-tape still for a first round. So let's say they are willing to watch 100 self-tapes for a role. That number is going to be different based on what they're looking for. Usually if they are looking for, if they're looking for a series regular, there are a couple different ways they may go about that. If they're looking for like a person to carry their series, an adult, for example, especially if they haven't sold the show yet, they may not even audition wide like that. They may be working from, they may have a list of 10 actors that they want to go out to and see if they can get them to commit first so that it's an easier sell for them. But maybe they already have a huge actor. Maybe this is a show and it's starring Nicole Kidman already. And so because they already have a big name attached, they are willing to see new actors and want to have other people. So if it's a big role like a series regular, they'll usually spend days and days, sometimes weeks auditioning, and they are willing to watch more. Whereas a co-star is usually a really quick little turnaround. They might be casting it today, seeing tapes tomorrow, have an offer out in 3 days, shoot next week. So they're probably just going to pick whatever 50 people they know or they like to watch those auditions. So let's say they pick 100 people to do self-tapes. They send us an email. I get an email that says casting wants these 6 people to tape for this role for Grey's Anatomy. Here is the breakdown. So you get that whole breakdown again. And here are the sides. Sides are the portion of a script that you're going to be using to audition. So a script is obviously long. The sides might be 2 scenes that they're going to have you tape. If it's a film or something like that, sometimes you will get a full script. Often you won't, especially not in the first round of auditioning. And for something like an episode of a show, you will really rarely get a full script. You'll just get those sides. So I send an email to my actors. I say, here's a self-tape audition for you. And someone asked what a side is. That's what I just explained. So sides are the portion of the script that you're going to be auditioning with. So it might be like scenes 1 and 2. That just comes in a packet by itself and it says sides, and that's the sides that you're going to be auditioning with. The script, the part of the script that you're going to be auditioning with. So my actors get an email. Now it's your turn to do the work. So when I send my actors an email with an audition, they have work to do on all fronts. Obviously, they need to read the sides. If there is a full script provided, I want them to read the full script so that they can understand as much of the context as they're given. They need to memorize. But before all of that, you need to figure out what the heck it is you're auditioning for. So if it's something like Grey's Anatomy, right? You kind of get a cheat because this show exists, right? So if you get an audition for Grey's Anatomy and you have never seen an episode of Grey's Anatomy, first thing you do, you watch Grey's Anatomy, always. And because it's already a show that's been existing, you can go on and do that. So you watch episodes, you think about things like, what is the tone of this show? If it's a sitcom, what kind of sitcom is it? Is it a multi-cam sitcom or a single cam sitcom? That means a lot of different things, which is why you take acting classes and you learn all of these things. I can go into it really briefly though. A multi-camera sitcom, multi-cam, literally means that there's separate cameras. It's usually bigger acting. If you ever watch a show and there's a laugh track, that's usually a multi-cam show. It's often filmed in front of a studio audience. A single camera show literally has 1 camera at a time, no laugh track ever. It's something like The Office or Modern Family. And the acting differs between those two. So a multi-camera, like a Disney show or a Nick show, that'll always be multi-camera. But it doesn't have to be a kids show to be multi-camera. Something like That 70s Show or Friends, those are all multi-cam sitcoms. And the acting is bigger. It is the closest type of acting to stage acting that you get on camera. They often are performing for an audience. They're waiting for laughs. and that affects the way that you act. A single camera sitcom is usually drier comedy. It's usually more sarcastic. The camera is right here and you're not performing out to an audience, so it can be a little bit quicker. So those are the two main types of TV comedy. If it's not a comedy, if it's a drama, what kind of drama is it? Is it a procedural? So every episode is different. Is it a streaming horror show? All of these things affect how your acting will be. You want to pay attention to things like how quickly are they talking? How out there do they get with their character? How animated are the characters? Things like that. You're looking for who they generally cast on the show and what type of actors and how they're normally reading and how they're normally directed. For something like Grey's Anatomy, like I said, easy. It's there. You can find it. So many auditions that you get, though, won't be. They might be brand new shows. It might be a feature film. So that's why you're sent all of that information on the breakdown. The producers, the director, the writer. You need to go to IMDb, the Internet Movie Database. You look up those people, every single one of them. You look at past things that they've done and you watch them. This is all before you do any kind of TV or film audition. Usually people produce really similar type of content. So if somebody usually makes a multicam sitcom, they generally continue to make multicam sitcoms. Sometimes people, you can think of those typical comedic actors that do more like big slapstick comedy versus actors that do more single camera grounded versus actors, and this goes for directors, producers, writers as well, that only do like really intense, dark stuff. It's rare that somebody does two totally different types. They generally stick in the same genre. So you need to be watching that and thinking, okay, what type of actor does this person usually want in their stuff? Same thing can go for commercials. Obviously, it's a smaller scale, but you need to know what brand you're auditioning for. You need to watch recent commercials, see what kind of campaigns they do, what type of acting it is, what type of speaking it is, how is it funny? Is it all of these things matter because you can have the same script and it could be it might not be funny, right? You get a script and there's nothing in it that's like innately funny. But if it's for a comedy, you need to make it funny. You find the funny. If it's for a multi-camera show, you make bigger choices. If it might be the exact same words, but it's not for a comedy, it's for like an intense drama or it's for a procedural where they are talking faster and it's dark and there's nothing funny about it. All of this goes into your auditions. And if you don't do that, you just get the script, look at the character description, memorize it, you are guessing all of those things. And you actually have all of this information at your fingertips to make that audition at least as specific as you can. Any information that you do not have, you make up. So obviously, depending on how far you all are in your training will teach you to do all of these things to create your character, right? Who are you talking to? What is the environment? What's the background of your character? What's the background of the other character? Sometimes you are told those things. If not, you need to make those decisions and commit to them. Basically, if you do that with all the information that you have, and you make a choice, you want to make a strong choice because they're now going to watch 100 self-tapes of probably similar looking people reading the same script. So what are you going to do to make that stand out? And the answer is you're going to make big acting choices. You're going to bring a character to life in a way that somebody else is not going to be able to because you are the only one that is you. Then at that point, when casting is watching, you might have made a really strong choice that is absolutely wrong, but casting noticed you and they think, oh, that was interesting. It's not where we're going to go with the character, but that was interesting. I'd like to bring them in for a callback so I can direct them and see if they can get the character how we want to. Playing it safe is not going to get you a callback. It's not going to book you the role. And that's really true in any type of acting at this point. There's especially the self-tapes. you're up against a lot. So it's bringing yourself to every role, bringing it to life, making it your own in a way that even if it's not what they end up wanting, that people are impressed. You've just made fans. They've said that was a really interesting choice that that person made. Because as somebody who I don't have to watch 100 of the same tape, but sometimes I have to watch 10 of the same tape. And I'll tell you, by like the fourth, they get old. So the people that make bigger choices are the people that wake me up like, "Ooh, that was good." And I can usually tell who's going to get a call back from those. Okay. So you've done all of your research. You have memorized your sides, your script. You have put all that background into it. If it's something like a big TV or film audition, you want to have a coaching session with an acting coach before recording, just to kind of give you another perspective of it, right? You already have done all this work. The acting coach might know some things about the project that you don't know. They can kind of help you fully form that. Obviously, if it's like a commercial audition, something like that, you're not going to pay and have an acting coach work with you on it. But for a big audition, you do want to do that. And then you tape it. We could talk about self-tape stuff, but the basics are plain background, this framing, a little above your head, right at your chest, good lighting. That's pretty much it. I mean, I wouldn't go crazy about the self-tape things. People really, I think, overthink it. As far as I'm concerned, you just don't want anything to take away from your performance. You don't want casting to open your tape and think like, "Ooh, that lighting is bad," or like, "Oh, that's a distracting background." But they're not going to sit there and be like, "That camera doesn't look high enough quality to," they don't care about that stuff. They just want to be focused on you and your acting. Okay, you tape it. It's fantastic. You send it into me. I watch it. I might say, okay, good try. Let's try this again. I don't think you did your research. You didn't read this at the right pacing, whatever. Or I might say, fantastic job because you did all the work you were supposed to. It's really good. It's funny. I laughed. I'll tell you that. And then I send it into casting. Okay, from there, it's casting's job to lower that down. So let's say they have 100 tapes. There may or may not be a callback. For smaller roles, like a co-star or something like that, there are no callbacks. Commercials can go either way. There usually are commercial callbacks, but not always. If there is a callback, then they may lower that to, let's say, 15 people to do a callback. That is usually going to be a Zoom at this point. Sometimes in LA it is in person. Sometimes it's another self-tape. If there is not a callback, then they send their selects. So casting directors are the people that watch all the tapes and pick let's say they picked their top 10, and that's who they send up to their client, which is going to be the people involved in the show, right? It's going to be the director, the producers, and then potentially the network as well. And then from there, it's those people that make those big decisions. What they might do is pick their top 4. They say to casting, okay, we want to pin these 4 people or put them on hold or put them on a veil. Those are all words that we use in this business. That basically means you are one of the top choices. They are triple checking that if they decide to hire you, you are going to be available for them. You are holding. So I get an email from casting that says, "Hey, great news. We want to pin this actor for the role of Tina. These are the dates. Please confirm." I call my actor and I'm like, "Hey, great news. You're pinned." And they say, "Great, I'm confirmed." I confirm with casting. Then casting can say to their team, "Yep, they are all good." Those 4 people, that's when kind of the next level happens. That's when they would do things like check your social media and make sure it's okay. They might, depending on how big the role is and what the network is and all that, they might do different kinds of research on you or your acting, or they may just be sending the audition tapes around, just depending. Okay, they decide who they want to cast, and then they call me and they say, "Great news, your actor got the part." If it's a co-star or a guest star or a supporting role in a film or anything like that, that's how it goes. I then get to call my actor and say, "You booked it," which is by far the best part of my job. And then they work. However, if it's a series regular or often a lead in a film, there's a whole nother level to this process, and that is called testing. So, new show, they're looking for series regulars, okay? We've gone through all those different levels of the process that I told you about. They're down to their final 4. These 4 people, they will then call me and say, good news, we want to start a test deal for your actor for this role. What that means is that I'm about to negotiate an entire series contract for my actor as if they are going to book it. There are 4 actors now that are doing this. So this means we are negotiating what their episodic rate would be, how many episodes they're guaranteed in a season, what future season rates are, what their exclusivity is to the show, how long we have to wait to find out. Basically, everything you can imagine in a contract, we're going to negotiate. It's usually like a 30-page contract. You can either as an actor hire an entertainment lawyer to do this, or your agent will do it. If an entertainment lawyer is involved, usually we work in tandem. I usually know my actors a little bit better, so it's helpful to have me as well. If there's no entertainment lawyer involved, then I just negotiate the whole deal and negotiate the whole contract. It's a long process. Long meaning it takes a lot of time, not it takes a long time, because usually I have 3 days to do this. We have 3 days before the test. I'm calling my actor saying, okay, this is what the offer is. Like, this is what relocation, they'll pay $10,000 for you to relocate to LA. Like, making sure that the deal is good enough for my actor, and I need to be okay with it and they need to be okay with it. If we cannot come to an agreement, we being us and the business affairs team, we don't close the deal and they don't test. If the money isn't high enough, if it just doesn't make sense for them to do it based on what's being offered. The idea is that obviously we do come to an agreement. Everybody's happy. They draft a long form contract. We do it. The 4 actors that are going to test have signed long form contracts before they go into that test. And I'll talk about what a test is in a second. Okay, a test is the last audition. It is usually going to involve a chemistry test. So let's say it's a new show with 4 main actors. Usually there's 3 to 5 actors for each role that are testing. They're mixing and matching the different people together. There's a studio test and a network test. So this is being presented to the big wigs at the studio, the big wigs at the network. In this day and age, sometimes that is an in-person thing. I had somebody test for a new contract role for General Hospital yesterday. She went in front of all of the people. Sometimes it's literally just, it can be online. It can be, they're just showing the tapes from the sessions you already had to all of these people. And it's your final audition. The reason they have us do that whole contract beforehand is so that we, and as agents and the actors, don't end up with leverage. So basically they do that final audition. They decide, this is the guy, we want him really badly. And I say, great, if you want him, you can pay him $1 million an episode. None of that. I can't know that they want him. I can't know that he's the first choice because I have that leverage then. So the whole deal is done. They do the test. Usually they have 10 days between when they test and when they tell us, like when they either have to, what's called exercise the contract. So that means they're calling and saying, yep, it's him. Your contract is now exercised. He's under series contract, or releasing him from the contract, meaning all of that work was for nothing. And 3 times out of 4, that's the situation. But obviously the hope is that you have that whole contract negotiated, you do the test, you book it, and then you're good to go. With a feature, it works like that as well. With a pilot, how we mentioned, pilot is just 1 episode, right? To see if the show is see if the network is going to buy more episodes of the show. It might be a pilot contract, which means there's 2 options to exercise. They can call after that test and say, we're exercising their pilot option, So that means, yep, it's you. We're going to shoot this pilot. And then in that contract, there's a thing that says they have XYZ amount of time. It's usually like 6 months to then tell you whether or not they're going to exercise the full series contract, meaning they shoot the pilot, you booked it, and then whether or not the network's going to pick it up. Okay. You shoot it. We're all happy. Hopefully it goes to series. You work forever and you become a big star. And that's kind of the goal. Okay. Questions on any of that? I do have one question here. What might they be looking for on social media? I mean, people, for the most part, especially if it's a small role, it's not like they're scouring your social media. If it is something like a kids show, they might be to just be making sure that everything that's online is appropriate, that you will be representing their brand well. That goes whether it's a kids show or not. Just when they Google you, that nothing crazy comes up because you're going to be the person representing their show and therefore their studio and their network. Yeah. Okay. Any questions about any of this or about anything in the industry as a whole? You guys have no questions on the entire entertainment industry. You are ready to roll, rock it. You know how to get representation. You know what to do once you have representation. Okay, I don't believe you, but I can talk about something else.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Sorry, I came in late. Been
Oh,
moving
no
house.
worries.
Hi. No, just like with representation. Like, I mean, it's a pretty basic question, but I guess it's the most important one. How do you find representation? Like, you just find agents, send over your CV. I guess I'm in Australia. I'm in Byron Bay, so I'm not. Sydney's probably. Oh, there's a fair bit of filmmaking in Byron these days. But yeah, that's the big thing. How do you get an agent? Do you know they're a good agent? I guess you ask around. I'm not sure.
Okay, let's talk about representation. Since I know you, Michelle, came in late and a couple other people have as well. One of the things I did say at the beginning is that I am speaking for the LA market. So everything I'm going to say applies to the LA market for the most part of the states, but it could vary, and my expertise is not abroad. So just to know that as I'm saying all of this. Okay, so first things first, before any representation happens or anything like that, you need to be in class, which obviously you are all here. So that is step one. I love that Next has these like business of acting classes as well, so that you can learn kind of ask these more business questions. You need to be in acting classes as well, though. So you need to be working on your craft so that when you get representation, you are going to be ready and able to go into auditions and book and feel confident about that. So whether depending on what you're pursuing exactly, you should have classes with that kind of thing. If you're pursuing commercials, make sure you take a commercial class. I highly recommend improv or something in that realm as well for commercials, really for anything if you're going to be an actor, because there will always be an improv element. But any kind of comedy classes are really good for commercials specifically. For TV film, scene study classes, just any kind of general acting classes. You want to know how to break down a script. You want to know how to look into all of that information I just talked about for the last hour, right? Like what to do when it says 1 hour procedural versus half-hour multicam. Like if those words are gibberish, like that's what you need to be learning. Once you are ready, and what does ready mean? It means you have you know what you're submitting for. You have the setup you need to pursue whatever you're pursuing. So that's probably a self-tape setup. You know the basics technologically that you're going to need. If you are auditioning commercially or locally in a way that auditions will be in person, you have the availability and means to do that, to make it physically to auditions and or to tape auditions. And you are trained. Then it's time to submit. So in the United States, our actors union is called SAG-AFTRA. Any legitimate talent agency will be franchised either by SAG-AFTRA or an organization called the ATA, which is the Association of Talent Agents. An agency needs to be licensed legally, and being franchised by one of those two is kind of the standard of a legitimate agency here in the States. I don't know for other places abroad what those organizations are, but I'm sure there are similar unions or organizations that have a list. You can for here, I always say go to the SAG-AFTRA website. Look, there are lists. You literally can put in your state. Again, it's the states, but like you put in your state and it'll give you a list of everybody that is franchised. And from there, you just want to do your research. So ways to research, I mean, you obviously want to Google it, like places that are scams will often pop up in Google and have like Reddit conversations about how they're scams. You want to look at their IMDb profiles. As you pursue this, you're going to want to pay for an IMDb Pro account. You just claim an account in your name, and then you literally can look up all these agencies' rosters and things like that. You can look at their social media. Some agencies will be active on social media, some won't. You can look at their websites. Some have more detailed websites than others. But all of these are ways to kind of get a feel for the vibe of the agency, and kind of get a list together of agencies that interest you. If you do, talking to people is always good. If you have friends with agencies, like finding out what their thoughts are. And then every agency should have information somewhere online on how to submit to them. This sometimes is clearer than others. Usually it will be like an email submission that will include a headshot, at least one headshot, and a resume, at the minimum. Headshot, we can talk more about headshots if you guys would like, but the headshots really should be professional acting headshots. It's a little bit of a catch-22 because headshots are expensive, first of all. And when you submit to an agency or you sign with an agent might have very specific ideas of what they like. So they might say, these are not good enough. I need you to shoot again. But also, if you have amateur headshots or something that doesn't look good, it's going to be harder to get representation. So you have to balance between those things. I also recommend if you're ever going to submit photos to an agency that you feel are not good enough, you can always say in that email, I am ready and able to have a full headshot session with whoever you want. Say something like that so that they know that these headshots aren't good enough, but you're going to fix that when you get representation. A resume. Acting resumes are a very specific format. Again, Google is your friend. Google acting resume. There are 3 columns. I was kind of talking about this a little bit when I was talking about the different kinds of roles, right? It's separated by type of project. So it'll say like you'll have a television section, and then you'll have a film section, and then you'll have a commercial section, though a commercial section will always say conflicts available upon request. You don't put commercials on your resume. Maybe a voiceover section, a stage section, whatever areas you've worked in. 3 columns, the name of the project, the type of role. So that's everything we talked about earlier. So that would be either supporting or lead for a film, and then co-star, guest star, or series regular for a TV show. And then either the director or the studio or the network. So it could be Netflix, it could be Shonda Rhimes, whatever it is, any of that is fine. Sometimes 2 is okay. You could put a slash. And then at the bottom, you usually have a skills section as well. There should always be a training section on your resume. Again, you guys are all first starting out, right? So you might not have much to put on your resume. Training is the most important thing. Like especially for me, right? I work with young people. So obviously when I'm signing a 7-year-old, like I don't expect them to have done movies and TV shows already. Sometimes they have, but the first thing I look at, even if they're little, is the training. Who have they coached with? What kinds of classes have they taken? That is the most important thing. So no matter what, training. And then even if you're just starting out, like, have you done community theater? Have you done anything that relates to this industry? Like if you have done community theater, that can go in a theater section. If you've produced your own film, like you can put that in there. If you've submitted for local stuff and done local student films, like you can put that on your resume. Just anything to show that you have been working to pursue your craft, even if you haven't booked anything big yet. If a resume is not in that standard acting resume format, I often will delete the submission. It shows that you are green, meaning you don't know what you're doing, which is fine. That's why you're in these classes. Everybody starts green, but you want to understand those basics, like what your resume should look like, what a headshot should look like before you go into the professional world of it, which is submitting for representation. Okay, go to their website. There'll be like a submission to how to submit section. It's really important to follow those directions. The last agency I worked at, I've been with DDO for about 6 years. The agency I was with before that only took hard copy submissions, which is crazy. I don't know if they still do, but it was 2019 and you still had to physically mail in your headshot and resume to the mailing address, and anything we got online, we deleted. I think that's nuts, but if that's what they want, that's what you do. Now we have a submission email address. I get to my personal work email probably 5 to 10 submissions a day, and I delete them immediately because you cannot follow directions. It says one thing, it goes to a different submission inbox. So just make sure that you are looking for submission instructions. If there are no submission instructions, which there really should be, then sending, just a headshot and a resume. If you're looking for commercial representation, a headshot and a resume can be sufficient, though I would always recommend sending a self-tape of yourself doing a commercial. And then for TV film, I think you should always include some kind of self-tapes with a submission. If you're submitting for TV and film representation, how are they supposed to know that you can act, right? You are selling yourself. So again, nobody's expecting you to have a high quality reel as you're first starting out, but to prove that you're good, to prove that you've trained, to prove even that you have a good self-tape setup and what you're going to be submitting looks good. Just tape a script, tape 2 scripts, tape a comedic script and a dramatic script, do it in a self-tape format and include that with your submission. Then they know that you know how to self-tape, it's going to look good, and that you're talented and you're good. The other thing is sometimes people do like cover letters or put some stuff in the body. If you're going to do that, just make it short and sweet, make it personalized. Sometimes I get very generic ones that I can tell were sent to every agency, but I do like when someone did a little research on me, I like want to submit to DDO. I'm a huge fan of Wizards of Waverly Place, and I know that you represent the lead in the show. And I think I'd be a great addition to your roster. Here's my headshots, my resume, my footage. Done. Short and sweet. Not anything long. I get so many emails that say like, imagine a mix of these 3 actors. And when I was young, I started and I dreamed of get it. Like, don't do that. We get a lot of submissions. Yeah. So read the instructions, submit how they say to, and just make sure they are legitimate. You never ever, okay, at least in the States, but even abroad, I can't imagine you do. You never pay anything upfront for representation. If you are looking to sign with somebody and they say it'll be $1,000 to sign, or okay, you just need to take our class, that's $500, or you sign up with the studio and you take these headshots for $1,500, like anything like that is a no. It's not even just a red flag. It's beyond a red flag. That means it's a scam, okay? Getting representation does not cost any money. Some places I know, like in Canada, there's like it is standard that they'll have you get like a website that costs $30 or something. Like little things like that might be okay, but anything more than that shows that it's a scam, and there are thousands and thousands of companies out there that will do that and will ask you to do that. And it's hard to say no when you feel like there's an opportunity, but know that if they are asking you to pay any money up front, it is a scam. It is always free to submit, and it is always free to get represented. We make our money off of commission, meaning we work for you for free until you book. And if it is anything else, that's a no-go. Does that make sense? Cool. I can also talk about the difference between an agent and a manager, but before I do that, does anybody have any other specific questions related to anything? Okay, I have a question in here. I'm going to read it out loud. Hi, I'm planning to move to the US when I turn 18, but I'm a little nervous about whether it'll be the right choice. if it makes a big difference for booking acting jobs, do you think it sounds like a good idea? Okay, great question. So a few different parts to this. First of all, I always recommend starting where you are. So it's always better to be a big fish in a small pond than a small fish in a big pond. So whether that means you're like the closest local market to you, so in whatever country you're in, let's say you're in, I think you might be in Singapore, is that right? Okay, whatever. Wherever you are, even if you're in Australia or if you're in a smaller market in the States, like you live in Ohio, you should get whatever local representation you can get first. Start booking local commercials. If there's any kind of TV film market that's like relatively close to you, like here in the States, there is a small market in for television and film in like New Mexico and Louisiana and Texas. Chicago has a really good one that is smaller. And that's just nice because you can start getting credits, you start getting your name out there. And it is, you're auditioning against way less people. Then once you've kind of mastered your own market, going into the bigger cities, the bigger markets, is a logical next step. A couple of things with being international. You do need to be able to work in the States. So that is just something to know, keep in mind, look into. In order to book acting work in the United States, you need at least what's called an O1 visa, preferably a green card, obviously, or citizenship. But it's very hard to do anything if you do not have an O1 visa, which is a visa the actors can use to book work here. I do have clients that don't live in the States. I have a few in Australia. I have quite a few in Canada. Some do have O1 visas, so even though they live abroad, they can work here. A couple do not, but for the people that don't, they're already a pretty big deal in their own country. So I have a pretty big star from South Africa, and he cannot work here yet. But because he already has those credits under his belt, I can submit him for really big things here. And if he booked like the lead in a feature or the lead in a series, then the studio or network could help him get that visa. But they won't do that for smaller roles. So if I just sign somebody who doesn't have credits in their own country, like I can't be booking them on like a co-star or a supporting role in a movie because they won't be legally allowed to work here, and the studios won't help them get that visa. So for whatever country you're looking to work in, you definitely need to look into those laws and the labor laws. So that's kind of the first like basic thing of don't move here for acting. If you want to move to the States, move to the States. We have our pluses and minuses, but if you're going to do it just for acting, don't do it if you can't work here. Or if you don't have kind of a plan, you're not working with it's an immigration lawyer that you can work with to try to get that, but it's not easy to do. It's much easier if you do have credits in your own country, even to work with an immigration lawyer and try to get that rolling. But in terms of being where you want to work, it definitely is easier to be where you want to be working. So, for commercials, we only sign people that are physically living in Los Angeles. Again, about 50% of commercial auditions are in person. So, definitely not abroad, but even somebody who lives in Arizona, just a couple hours away, you're not gonna, we find out, the night before, you're not gonna be able to come in and make an audition. And then sometimes even the turnaround for an actual job for a commercial would be is really short. So we only work with people that are here. For TV film, we do have actors all over the country. But it is easier when you are here. There are some shows here in LA. There are some shows that when they send the audition, it says on the audition, a lot of times it says must be a LA local hire. The term local hire is a good one for all of you to know. Local hire means you are willing to work as if you were local, meaning they will not pay to travel you there and they will not pay for you to stay there. If I have a client that books a big series or something like that, we do negotiate flying and where they're staying and how much they're getting paid to relocate, or even for something like a really big guest star or something, they might know from the beginning that that client lives in Atlanta and they're going to cover to fly them here and to stay in the hotel while they're shooting and all of that. But if you're working as an LA local hire, it means, yes, of course, you'll be paid for the work day, but you are expected to get there on your own and to put yourself up in lodging. Being a local hire in a place is super important. Especially like for LA, I do not sign anybody that is not able to be a local hire here at the minimum, because it just is so limiting otherwise. But you also need to be honest with yourself, slash, if you're under 18, your parents, everybody needs to be really open about whether or not that is something you can do, because it's hard. Let's say you book a one-day co-star. A one-day co-star on a SAG TV show pays a little over $1,000 for the day. 10% goes to your agent. If you have a manager, it's 15%. If you're working in the States and you're under 18, 15% goes into a special bank account. You're taxed. So you're walking away with like a few $100. And if you're living in, let's say, Atlanta or abroad, you are paying for the flight, you're paying for the hotel, you're actually going to be spending money to do the job. I do have a lot of clients that are able and willing to do that to build their resume, but obviously that's not reasonable for a lot of people. And if you have a day job, you then have to say, I'm not coming in for 4 days while I go work this job in LA. So being a local hire is super important, but it's also just really important to know what you actually can do and what you actually can commit to. But then even on top of being able to be a local hire, a lot of shows now do say must physically be in LA. Like they don't want people that are going to travel in. I think people just especially throughout COVID, productions have gotten a little bit screwed at times where they've booked somebody who said, yes, they're local. And then they say, okay, we need you here tomorrow. And they can't do that because they physically can't get there that fast. So you're seeing that more and more. Certain shows like the show 911 on ABC, that they will not book anybody that is not physically in LA. I've done it and just said that people are in LA and they've gotten here, but that's besides the point. Yeah, so I think the multitude of answers to that basically are, can you legally work here? And if you can, I do recommend it if this is where you want to be. I mean, this is definitely, especially one of the big cities here, like LA, New York, Chicago's great, Atlanta's great. Like that's where all the action is. I think it's also nice to be in-person acting classes with other actors. Like when you're in LA and you do a show with other actors pursuing it, like you create a community. I think that's all a really nice part of it. You can go to comedy shows that your favorite comedian is doing, or find your new favorite comedian, or you're working in an acting class with somebody who does a show and blows up and you have that connection. So I think that's all a part of it. Like the fact of like who you know in this industry, like does have a factor that can help you at times. And I think it's nice to be with like-minded people. But do you have to be here? Definitely not. And COVID has certainly changed that in many ways. And there are a ton of working actors that are not in a major market. Fair enough. She said she'll probably move to LA, but she still needs to discuss with her family. I think that is totally fair. And whatever country you are based into, like get in the community there, like take some acting classes there, see if there are, connect with local actors. That is good too. There are people everywhere and there are other markets. My world centers around LA, and obviously a lot of TV film does, but there are great TV film markets in other places and great commercial markets all over the place. Other questions? No other questions. Okay. I'll talk a little bit about managers. And I know I've said this 400 times, but again, I'm talking about LA. I really don't know how it works with managers in other countries, to be completely honest. A lot of people ask what the difference between an agent and a manager is, or do you need both, or which one should you start with? So technically, the technical difference is that a manager does not have to be licensed. How I said an agency, we all have to have an agency license, and the good ones all have to be franchised. A manager, anybody can say they're a manager, which can get a little bit iffy. You have to be really careful with, you have to be more careful with managers because there is nothing governing them. There's nobody, like, we have a license, but they do not have to maintain a license. Legally and historically, a agent is the person that procures work for you, so that looks for jobs for you and negotiates on your behalf and closes deals. And a manager, traditionally and historically, is more the person that manages you on the day to day. So helps you with things like your schedule and your acting classes. And a lot of times a manager can help you get an agent, kind of is looking at the bigger, longer term picture of your career. There's been overlap though over the years. It used to be that managers didn't procure work, but now any good manager is also submitting you on jobs and pitching you for jobs alongside of us. And we love that. When I have a client that has a really strong manager that I'm close with, it's great. A new role comes out and a manager will text me and say, "Hey, did you see this role for Tina?" Is the name we were using before. "Do you see this role for Tina? She's perfect for it. Have you pitched her yet? I'm going to send a pitch right now. Will you follow up tomorrow if we don't have a time?" We work together. We just want to get everybody in the room. When that client sends a self-tape and I watch it and it's not good, it's easier for me, if it's a manager I'm really close with, to be like, "Hey, did you watch this tape? Like, it is not funny enough. She didn't make big enough choices. Fix it. Help me fix it. Help her fix it." And then it's the manager that's more like, okay, talking to the client, "Who are you coaching with? This didn't work. What did, and kind of does more of the hand holding for me, where I am more, usually a manager's roster is smaller than mine. So I am more working for more people and working more heavily on projects, whereas a manager is kind of hopefully helping you more on that day to day. However, and I'm sure managers can say this about agents too, but a lot of managers don't do that much. Managers generally take a bigger percentage than agents do. Agents in the States take 10% on any union jobs. The standard is a 10% commission on union jobs and a 20% commission on non-union jobs. But obviously the goal is that you're doing union work. So our commission is 10%. A manager usually takes 15%. And I work with a lot of managers, and many of them don't do that much. I'm still the one that's doing all that hand holding for my client. I'm still the one that's talking to them directly. When I have a great manager working with my client, it is absolutely an asset to me. It's an asset to the client. But often I find that they're just kind of nowhere to be found when I need them. And I don't necessarily know how much they are working with the client. You should be talking to your manager, in my opinion, often, especially like more than you're talking to me, and I'm talking to you a lot, me as your agent. And sometimes they are. Sometimes I might not hear that much from a manager, but they are talking to my client, every day, a few times a week, like talking about those, they're asking them, "What should we wear for this audition?" It's little things like that it's not my job to handle. Sometimes I do, but and then there are other times where I talk to a client and they say, "I haven't heard from my manager in months." And in that case, I'm like, why are you paying them 15%? So I think the answer to what's the difference is really just those legal things. Which one you should have first? Do you need both? That is really a case by case basis. You want to find people that are super excited about you as an actor, as a person, as a human being, that you are super excited about. It's a two-way relationship. I want my clients to love me as a person, as an agent, really believe that I am working my butt off for them every day. So when clients are taking those meetings with agents and managers, know that it's a two-way street. So even if you're having an interview with a rep, like you can ask questions. You want to get the vibe too. If you feel like you don't love it, it's not the right, you don't love their personality, or you're not loving what they're saying, or it just doesn't feel like the right fit, don't sign with those people. These are the people that are going to be your team. I mean, we're working together. And whether that might be an agent or a manager that feels like that right fit, that might answer that question. If you meet with an agent and a manager and you don't feel like it's right with the agent, the vibe isn't right, and you love the manager and you feel like they're really excited about you, and they may very possibly say, you know, okay, when you're first starting out, they might help you get ready to get an agent. If you're not quite there yet, they can help you with those materials that we talked about to submit. And that's all fantastic. Eventually you pretty much need an agent. There are exceptions to every single rule in entertainment, but for the most part, you do need an agent and you don't need a manager as much. However, managers might answer that differently, and B, I do think it just depends on who the manager is and who the agent. A lot of managers, especially here in LA, have been agents or were agents during the pandemic. And, you know, we as agents, we were on strike for most of last year. And that closed a lot of big agencies. A lot of people left the business. A lot of agents moved over to being managers during that time. So someone might be a manager, but they might function on more kind of like an agent, and they are pitching you all the time and they are comfortable closing deals. So all of that stuff dictates how you make those decisions. But I think the most important thing as you go through this journey is sticking to what feels right to you. There are obviously, you hear horror stories in this industry, right? But there are horror stories in every industry. So you just need to look out for yourself. If something doesn't feel right, I mean, especially if you're a young person, but obviously not just if you're a young person. If something doesn't feel right in any moment, don't do it. Get yourself out of there. You know, we have it's a big goal to want to be an actor and be a working actor. And it's easy, it can be easy as an actor to get caught up with, well, what if this is my big break? What if this is a big deal? What if, and I promise you that if you're feeling uncomfortable with something, it's not. Speak up. If you're on set, if you're a kid, speak up to your parent. If you're an adult, speak up to somebody on set. Never go into a room just with one person, and all of that stuff is just super important. And know that, like, our industry is just like any other. There are a lot of fantastic people in this industry, but you need to look out for yourself always, first and foremost. Which is kind of a dark way to end this, but it's not. It's really should be empowering. I want you all to know that, like, if something doesn't feel right, it's not, and you are here to advocate for yourself. Another cat. Wow, we got multiple cats in this session. That's really pleasant for me. Awesome. I think that's it for me, unless anybody has any other questions. Big, small. Oh, it's a really cute cat. Nothing? Man, y'all just know everything. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for being here with me. I hope it is a lot of information, but I hope it was kind of helpful to see my side of things and what happens throughout the process. And yeah, have fun pursuing this. It's a really fun, frustrating. There's no career like this, in all honesty. But if you love it, like, focus on your passion all the time and it will always be worth it.